This is Caffeinated Risk, the podcast for security professionals by security professionals. Here are your two self-proclaimed grumpy security guys, Tim McCreate and Doug Leese.
Welcome, folks, to Season 5 of Caffeinated Risk. Our next podcast guest is Rochelle Clarke, the founder of Continuity Strength. She is a seasoned expert in risk management and business continuity, with a strong focus on leveraging AI and technology to drive innovation in risk mitigation. Rochelle has built an award-winning risk management solution that has been recognized in the Business Continuity Institute's Innovation Awards and listed in the 2024 Global InsurTech 100. Rochelle also serves on the Risk Management Association board and contributes to shaping risk mitigation strategies. She holds an MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, serves as a family business mentor at Cornell University, and is an entrepreneur in resident at Institut Européen d'Administration des Affaires, or INSEAD. And now, let's check out our latest podcast with Rochelle Clarke. So thank you, Rochelle, for being on. This is awesome. It's great to get you on, and I know we're all very busy, but it's nice to take this time just to chat. I wanted to ask, can you tell our podcast audience what it is that you do? That we found it was just fascinating, but I kind of want you to describe what you do, and more importantly, how does it help the stakeholders that come to you, the clients that come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do is risk management, but risk management for small businesses. I'm the founder of Continuity Strength, which is, and my team said I should always say it's an award-winning. So it's an award-winning business continuity planning solution. My background is in risk management. I'm creating business continuity plans for, Fortune 500 companies. So what I decided to do is really hone that or massage it so that it is more relevant for small to mid-sized businesses, because there really was a gap. And I recognize that there are a whole lot of vulnerabilities when it comes to that particular segment of business, the small to mid-sized business. And they're equally as vulnerable, but the impacts on their operations could be absolutely devastating for them. So Continuity Strength is a solution that helps small to mid-sized businesses very quickly create business continuity plans that they can use to respond to unplanned disruptions. And, cyber, of course, is top of mind right now, but it could be, severe weather, a key employee leaving or something of the sort. It's a salve for many wounds, as they say. Preparation. Preparation is important. So the solution creates business continuity plans, but another thing that it does is it helps these businesses run cyber scans. And it's evaluating their domain against the NIST standard. NIST standards. And it helps identify for them what their vulnerabilities may be from a cyber perspective and a business continuity perspective. And it lets them know, okay, these are your resilience gaps. And it also assigns them a resilience score at the end of the day. So we'd like to think that it's comprehensive risk management for the small to mid-sized business to really help them be resilient in the face of unplanned disruptions that they're facing. Now, your second question is around, how does this benefit, how does this benefit advisors who come to us? In a number of ways. We know that particularly from an IT perspective, we have some IT advisors who perform IT audits, for example. And one of the areas that they need to ensure is that this business is prepared to respond in the event of a disruption. And in some cases, it's the incident response plan, right? They also know the headache that goes into creating an incident response plan, right? It's very time consuming. So this is where they look to our solution, and particularly for a small business that may not have as much to spend on something like this. They'd much prefer to have, a solution in place where they can let that small business or medium-sized business owner just go and prepare a standards-aligned business continuity plan that they can really rely on at the end of the day. Awesome. So that's how the advisors work with us. And from an enterprise level, we can get into vendors. third-party
Awesome.
risk management, right? That's absolutely major at this point. But what we're recognizing is that there's a whole lot of effort that goes into evaluating vendors,
Yeah.
evaluating
Yeah.
that vendors are resilient, right? And this is in many cases the IT team is pulled in to do part of that evaluation.
Yeah.
The way that we assist in that case is that with our business continuity plans, the business continuity plans highlight the risk gaps or the resilience gaps within that operation, and it assigns them a resilience score. So these professionals are then very quickly able to look at that resilience score to determine the preparedness of this company or the actions that this company has taken to prepare themselves in the event of a disruption, and then they can take it from there. Certainly, they can look to see what those gaps are and make a decision on, as a part of their due diligence process.
No, this is awesome. And I like how you're targeting the three different stakeholder groups, but I gotta ask, how did you get into this? Like, how did you actually think this, I gotta give this a shot. I gotta build this out. What drove that? Like, what made you choose this path?
Well, like most things, unfortunately, from experience, I was, living and working, I was in my corporate career, enjoying it very much. A part of my previous role in my corporate life was overseeing the business continuity agenda of a Fortune 500 FMCG company. So I was very, very familiar with the importance of having these in place. As life would have it, unfortunately, one of the small businesses within my own family experienced a crisis of continuity where we were really scrambling at the end of the day to figure out where things were. It was an accounting firm in the middle of tax season.
Wow.
And it just, the unfortunate thing is that things just really compounded. So we had a lot of clients and customers who were understanding of the situation, right? It was an unplanned death in this case. They were understanding of the situation, but at the same time, their taxes were due.
Yeah.
So there's only so much leeway that you can have. And let me tell you guys, it was one of the times when I was really kicking myself because I was saying, if only we had a business continuity plan, it could help us to at least keep the business running.
Yeah.
So that really was it was really devastating for the small business. But then but then I told myself, certainly there's a solution out there. Somebody else is taking care of it. Unfortunately, I looked around and I didn't find something in the marketplace. So I told myself, okay, well, in this case, I'm positioned to craft something. And the way that this started out is with an advisory firm.
Oh, okay.
I started out advising on this, but I recognize that there's a barrier to particularly small to mid-sized businesses when it comes to hiring an advisor for something like this.
Yeah, agreed.
In many cases, it's a small operation, perhaps not, it's not so sophisticated. And there's this level of embarrassment, when it comes to bringing somebody in to dig around to figure things out for you. And then, of course, we have to also keep in mind that this is also costly for a small business. Costly, time consuming, and it's not something that a small business would necessarily elect to do for themselves. So we said, let's try to remove as many barriers as possible when it comes to this, because it is really important. So this is when we decided to bring a tool that we were using in the back office to create these business continuity plans for small businesses. We prettied it up and of course we made it its own standalone proposition for them.
I like the sounds of that. And I looked at the product online. I think it's a great idea. When I was listening to the first part there where you talked about we bring in the IT department and they write an incident response plan and they do the assessment. I'm hearing that a lot, and I'm really starting to wonder why we keep asking the IT department about risk when they don't know anything about risk.
Yeah.
I know it sounds awkward, but I work in IT, so I can say that.
Yeah.
How do we get the company thinking IT systems and all the other, like you had mentioned, a key employee leaving or a critical market shift? And it would be great. The IT people can sit in the back. Yeah, we got your input now. What about the rest of the business?
Right.
Yeah.
How do we get everybody looking at the same thing, but the business owners understanding that it's IT and
Yeah.
XXX?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I think this is the rub, because it's a situation that many companies, many corporations, many departments are facing. Getting that buy-in from the top, because it can only come from the top. And it really takes a level of risk understanding. Somebody needs, the executives really need to be risk aware, understand the impact of risk, not only for a specific department, but how it can really permeate the entire company. And everyone really needs to have that risk awareness hat on when they're performing their jobs, because you're absolutely right. It's really interconnected. So to throw it over the fence to IT to kind of say, hey, fix this or handle this, it's a bit short-sighted. Not only is it short-sighted, but it really leaves the company vulnerable to whatever may be out there, whether it's an attack or because risk is more or less universal, right? And it can rear its ugly head in so many ways. The ownership of risk needs to lie with top executives who need to have an understanding of the fact that it's not isolated. It's not an isolated case where one department needs to take care of this. It truly is a burden that everyone should be lifting at the same time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I have lots of questions about this.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking up here, it's because I've got another question.
Sure.
Doing research for this, I came across a quote that I'm sure you'll find familiar. In a world of increasing uncertainty, resilience isn't optional, it's essential.
Yes.
Well, I don't think any modern leader, even the executives that we're mentioning right here, I don't think any of them would disagree. I'm not sure it's really a top priority for many, because when we look at a big existential event like COVID, it's not that frequent. But you had mentioned so much interconnection and so many interdependencies. Is this resilience plan that's only looking at big major events the wrong mental model?
Yes. I mean, if you're only focused on big events, then you're really going to miss the importance of having that, ingraining that mindset within everyone who works with the company.
Right.
Because they'll be thinking for something big, right? However, the risk that the company can face can be with a key employee leaving unexpectedly.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
So
I think if your objective is to really insulate this company from unplanned disruptions, you need to be thinking big and small, because it's more likely that something relatively small can happen. But like they say, something small can have an equally devastating impact on that company as something big, right? So for me, it's about mindset, right? How are you ingraining that mindset within everyone who works, right? Are they looking at, their behaviors, for example? Okay, we're talking cyber. Cyber is big right now. It can be, are you aware of, you're opening an email, which is something that everyone does multiple times per day. Are you opening that email with a risk mindset? Or are you just opening the email and you're not turned on, as they say, to the potential risk that could be coming?
Yep.
Right. So unfortunately, it's the world that we live in. It's not to be paranoid about everything, because you really do need some freedom in order to be creative and in order to operate. But at the same time, you need to understand and be intentional about the fact that the quote unquote little things that you're doing can also have a big impact. So for me, it's about that mindset. And it's not only for the big things that may come, it's, also for the small things, unfortunately.
And I think that's the hard part, though, is that I think the mindset, it's the hardest thing to change the human behavior, because it feels like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I just wanted to ask Rochelle, do you think a lot of times folks are getting numb now? Like there's this numbness to, like there's this concept of risk, I think we've tried to explain it in different ways. We've tried to get executives, we've tried to get others involved, particularly, now that I'm running a small business, I'm worried about a lot of things. But I'll be honest, there's some days I go upstairs, I'm like, I just want to watch TV now. I'm done. Like I've had enough risk for the day. I'm done. But I'm curious, do you see that now with some of your clients or some of your stakeholders where there's this numbness, where it's almost overwhelming now what they're having to deal with every day?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And, if you think about the mindset of a small business owner, that person is wearing multiple hats to begin with, right? There's so much going on. And, their primary objective is to keep this business running.
Yeah.
Right. How do I keep my business running? So the last thing that, they're paying taxes, they're paying employees, they have to worry about the marketing. And if they're a consultant, they're also developing the work for clients,
absolutely.
Right? Client management, right? So there's so much going on that it's really difficult for them to be also thinking about what could happen if, right? All of the hypotheticals at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I completely get it. There is a numbness when it comes to, insulating a business from risk. If it's a smaller business, there is that numbness that comes where the owner throws up their hand and says, there's only so much that I can really handle. There's only so much that I can take care of. I'll manage the manageables. I'll manage what's in front of me at the moment. Right. Whatever comes, I'll figure it out. Right. That's understandable for sure. And in many cases, they don't even know how to begin thinking about all of the potential risks that their business can face.
Right.
There are some that are risk aware, so they get insurance, but in many cases they think, okay, insurance is it. The insurance is going to take care of me.
Yeah.
But then we have insurers who are pushing back and saying, hey, wait a minute. We can't be your only line of defense. You have to do some of this lifting as well, right? Where is the proactive stance? So you're even finding that in many cases, insurers are expanding their departments that deal with risk, their risk management departments, because what they're saying is the more risk aware you are, the more steps that you'll take to ensure that your business can't be impacted by an unplanned event. Right. So if you are going in with that mindset in the first place, the likelihood of you experiencing a claim is going to go down, which is going to be beneficial for you, the business, as well as the insurer.
Yeah.
If it's just down to the small business owner, in many cases, it's just not top of mind. It's very, complicated for them to figure out on their own. Yes, there are templates out on the internet, but, how do they even know the depth that they need to go in when it comes to answering some of these questions?
Yeah.
So there are definitely barriers and the numbness.
Yeah.
Open up the news and you hear cyber attack, happen there, da. So then they just sit back and they say, okay, if these events are happening to big corporations that have all of the money, what chance do I have as a little business? Right. So that's where they kind of throw up their hands.
Yeah.
But having a mindset like that doesn't help the business in the long term.
Yeah.
Right. Because you would like for the business to grow at the end of the day. Right. So if the business starts growing and you never adopt a mindset to protect that growth, then you're very more susceptible to any event that may come down the pike that can really set you back. There was a quote that said that the average business, I think the cost of a cyber attack on a business was around, a small business was around 100,000. Now, I don't know about you, and of course, that's not counting inflation, and these figures are a few years old. I don't know about you, but there are not very many small businesses that I know that have, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 even lying around to handle an event like this, much less, hundreds of thousands. So it's a big concern. But what we're finding is that the companies that are forcing small businesses to really have this mindset are larger corporations who bring them on as vendors.
Yeah.
Right. Insurance companies who are increasingly starting to incentivize small businesses to take these steps. There are many insurance companies that if you do the right behaviors, where if you have your smartwatch and you're counting your steps and everything, you may get a discount on your health insurance. For safe driving, you may get a discount on your car insurance. What we're finding is that some of them are starting to adopt that mindset when it comes to business, right? So if you're taking the right actions from a business standpoint, there could be some benefits that can be gained there. And that's because these bigger corporations are recognizing the importance of having that mindset even at the grassroots level. And they're kind of forcing these businesses down that path.
I think we want to take it up one notch.
Sure.
You had mentioned when you have employees coming in and they have an expectation. And I think back to when I first started in my working career, I always worked for small companies. The complexity of running something like that, if that owner dies. When I'm looking at your website, there's the AI support to kind of drive those smart questions into the process. But at what point does it make more sense, that maybe we're just using AI to assist a risk professional to help that next level company where there's a couple dozen employees, but there isn't the immediate, I just point upstairs to my wife looking after it kind of thing.
Yeah. You're going to pick on me forever now, though. All right.
No, it's not that. I mean, I think that's a legitimate thing. Like businesses grow to that size and they become a going concern in the community.
That's my hope, yeah.
But they're still pretty darn small compared to Procter & Gamble or Walmart. When does doing it yourself, which is the small business ethos, when does that, it's like, no, that's not a good idea at this point, right? You need to bring in somebody. They can still use our tool, but...
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we do it based on complexity. What we say is, listen, if you have a simple business, right, one line of business, you can use our tool. It's standalone. Even if you're a one-man band and you're bringing in 10 million a year, because there are some relatively small businesses that, so we don't distinguish based on revenue or headcount. We do it based on complexity.
Okay.
So if you have one line of business, then you can use a tool like ours because it's not dependent on your revenue or anything like that. It's how does the business work today and what's the contingency in case you can't continue that operation, right? So plan A, plan B. And in that case, using the online tool, with the AI assistance to really help elevate some of the areas. And I'll speak about how that helps. Using that online tool, right, it's perfect for you. The moment that you increase the complexity of that business. So if you bring in a second line of business, let me give an example. If you started off running a little supermarket, for example, supermarket, okay, you bring in goods, you sell goods, relatively simple, right? One line of business, right? One method of operation. If you decided to then open up a cafe,
okay, yeah,
2 lines of business, right? What we say is, no, in this case, it's better to just bring in a business continuity expert to have a look, and they can really build out that plan because now you've added an additional level of complexity that is worth having someone evaluate a little bit differently and separately. So this is what distinguishes being able to use an online tool, right, or at least our online tool, the way that we built it, versus bringing in a business continuity expert to really help you get there. It's that level of complexity.
Yeah, that's a great reference point. I hadn't considered the multi-line of business as a good demarc. That makes a lot of sense.
It does, and I'm thinking of my own business now, right, with Tailcraft Security. I'm going to go back and take a look and see how can your tool help me plan, because right now I have contractors I'm working with. I have a consulting program that we're offering, but there's other options that I want to start considering, and I think I want to get to that $10 million a year. That would be awesome. I would love that. I don't think there's enough 7-Elevens to rob between now and then to get to 10 million. So I'm going to have to actually work for it. But what I do want to do, I kind of want to ask those. I mean, over time, have you seen the change in people's adoption and perception of this? Like, is it starting to make more sense now to companies? Because years ago, I know Doug and I, when we came out of the corporate world, and Doug's still there, it's getting them just to accept the fact that something bad could happen. What does plan B look like? Honest to God, that was a fight at the executive level, even just to get funding to start doing the questions. Like way back in the day, we started doing business impact analysis, and that was awkward enough to ask questions of a business.
So are you seeing that change now? Are you watching people, at least the light bulb come on going, I gotta, like mine just came on when Doug was, and you were talking, like, I gotta reach out and get this software, because it's like, I can't just rely on Lisa upstairs knowing what everything's going on in the basement here. That's not fair. Right?
It's an excellent question, Tim. Listen, before, I've been speaking about this and the importance of this because, of course, it hit me personally. In many cases, it takes a personal experience for you to really appreciate the importance of something like this. Unless you have been working within the industry, then you know. Apart from that, folks are, like you said, it's not even on their radar. It's not even on their horizon. It's okay. Yeah, I'll figure it out then. Except the change happened when COVID happened.
Okay.
Yes. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Then people recognize, ooh, something big could happen. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then, of course, that really grounded the fact that, actually, something very, very big could happen, and it can actually affect many types of businesses, right? Not just and it's not isolated. So, I perhaps should be prepared, right? And COVID, reared its head in different ways. For some, it was a health disruption, and that sidelined their business. In other situations, it was economic, right? With folks just not coming in. So they were able to see the multifaceted importance of just having a plan in place so that they can respond. So COVID happened. The other thing, and that was the catalyst, because many businesses then started to go online. Right?
Yes.
With that happening, you found that the incidence of cyber attacks increased, right? So you saw the vulnerabilities really start to increase, and folks were thinking, actually, it's not the big corporations that get hit, but a small business can really be held to ransom, literally, when it comes to something like this. So they saw the fact that, I think COVID was the catalyst, right? Followed by the increased use of technology. And then, of course, you had incidents like CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
So I think it's just been a succession of events that really grounded home the fact that there's no segment that's particularly safe when it comes to planning for the unknown, because the frequency and the severity of unplanned disruptions seems to be increasing.
And one more question, because you had mentioned you used to do this in large companies as well. What are the big differences between a small enterprise and a large one in the area of resilience? And then what are the things that are common? It doesn't matter what size you are.
So small versus large resources.
Okay.
Would be, right? That's the main difference between small versus large. And when it comes to a disruption, you want to have more resources at hand because that gives you a fighting chance. It can be resources in terms of people. It can be resources in terms of locations that you need to move to. It can be resources in terms of money, because you may need, that cushion in order to respond. So the big difference between the two, it comes down to resources, is what I would say. And when you're dealing with a small business, like you said, things tend to be cut a little bit closer to the bone. So they tend to not have as many resources in terms of people, because the existing people are wearing multiple hats. Mm-hmm. They may not have that discretionary income, right? That cushion, right? And in terms of moving operations, they may be tied to one location. If you think about a bakery,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They just have, if it's owned by a one-man band, they just have this one location that they're really working out of. And, if it's a big corporation, they've got multiple locations. They can, move and shift as they need to. So that would be the one area where I say, bar none, this is where they really, really differ. When it comes to how they are the same, however, how do I say it? If they are prepared.
Yeah.
So I'll take this from two separate dimensions. If they're both prepared with two business continuity plans in place, large and small, the smaller business may, depending on the type of issue that they're dealing with or they're responding to, the small business may be a little bit more agile than the bigger corporation, right? Because you've got more people to bring on board, figure out who does what. And, it's like moving a warship. So it takes a lot more effort. So the small business may be a little bit more agile, right? Once they're planned. But if they don't have response plans in place, then it's just as much chaos. It's just a scale of that chaos.
Yeah.
What an amazing time we're living in. Thank you very much for this. This is a lot to think about.
Agreed. I've got homework now, so thank you. I appreciate it. So, no, this is terrific. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the latest podcast from Caffeinated Risk. Make sure you visit our website, caffeinatedrisk.com, to stay up to date on what we've been working on. Our website has bios of our podcast guests, posts about topics we're passionate about, and even a library of reference material we find valuable in the work we do every day. And don't forget to subscribe to Caffeinated Risk on your favorite podcast service. This way, you'll be notified when we release our next podcast, and you can listen to our previous guests just in case you missed them. Thanks so much for listening to Caffeinated Risk.